and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to bring you my July and August wrap up. If you didn't see my video before a couple of days ago, you can understand that I haven't actually videotaped anything in the last 3 to 4 weeks. And that is just because August was a really hard month for me and my family. So without further ado, I'm going to play catch up today and we're going to do my July and August wrap up, which there's quite a bit actually. Even though I didn't read that much in August, July was a really good month for me. So let's just dive right in. The first book that I finished in the month of July is called The Night Sister by Jennifer McMahon. I have never read Jennifer McMahon's books before, so this would be my first one, and I loved it. 5 stars for me. I'm rating it PG because it does have a few swear words, but nothing crazy like that. It is an adult mystery thriller. I loved it. I can't wait to try reading some more of her books. So this is particularly about 3 girls. 2 of them are sisters and the other one is just a really good friend. And they live in Vermont. The sisters are related to this family that back in the day, they had built this motel that's looks like a tower, as you can see. Well, these 3 best friends, supposedly, one summer, discover some really dark secrets and it ruins their friendship. So 20, 30 years later, they're all grown-ups. They're still, the 2 sisters, of course, are pretty close, but the other friend, they still never could really make amends. Something happens in the present day that kind of brings the 3 of them back and relive kind of the dark secrets that they have uncovered, discovered, and then just trying to come to terms with what really has been going on. And the ending of this completely blew my mind. I don't want to say anything else about this book other than this book went into a direction I was not expecting, and I loved it. 5 stars. Highly recommend it. Book 2 that I read in July, oh my gosh, book number 3 in the Michael Vey series by Richard Paul Evans. I can't speak more highly of this series. So this is about, of course, Michael Vey. I don't want to dive too much into book 3 because it'll kind of ruin the series. There's 7 in this whole novel, or in this whole series. This is just where the Electric Clan, his little group of friends that he has put together that have these amazing powers, they go out and pretty much are seeking revenge, and the adventures that they come across and the craziness that they always ensue. It's kind of funny, some of the things that they go through, but at the same time, they're just so smart, these kids. And I can't speak more highly of this. It's 5 stars for me. I rated it, I believe, G or PG. It's a perfect book for anybody. YA adventure novel, that's all I'm calling it. But it's more, crap, what do you call it? I'm drawing a blank, but you know what I mean. Such a good series. Love it. Are you guys digging my shirt today? It's a Sunday, so we've got we're not church-going people, but we've got the NFL going on and go Patriots. And it's a cleaning day for me and just wrapping things up before I gotta start the work week. And of course I've gotta wear my okay but first coffee, because this actually should be more like a Monday shirt, but this is more like a cleaning, laid back, I'm gonna enjoy it shirt. And guess where I got it from? Of all places, I seriously got this shirt for $3 and it is one of the most comfortable shirts I have ever worn, and it's off Wish. $3, people. $3. Okay, let's go back. Okay, so the 3rd book that I finished in the month of July is The Miniaturist by Jessie Burton. This was really popular on BookTube a couple of years ago, and I bought it years ago, and I just kept putting it off, and finally I decided I'm gonna read it because I found a really good deal on an Audible book for it a couple months ago. This couldn't have been a better summer read, even though the premises of this book was snow and winter time, but it kind of had that summery feel to it, even though it was a dreary England-esque, cloudy. I don't know. I'm weird, okay? Anyways, 5 stars for me. I loved this book. I am rating it rated R. It does have quite a bit of sexual content in it and a lot of LGBTQ references and sexual acts and things like that. But that does not take away from this book. Like, oh my gosh, I loved it. So this is about Nella. She is a young girl who decides that she is going to marry this man and think that he's gonna just pretty much take care of her and she's gonna live this magical, wonderful married life, and lo and behold, it is not what she had wanted or seemed. She builds friendships in this book. She has a lot of character growth in this book. She has a lot of growing up to do in this book, but the friendships and the love, and it is such a good book, but at the same time, your heart just breaks for Nella because everything that she has wanted is not what she is getting, and there are things in the house that she is now in with her husband are not all what they seem. There are so many secrets in this house and so much deception and intrigue that you just like, I gotta know more. Like, what is going on in this house? Why are there so many secrets? And the reason why it's called The Miniaturist is her husband, as a wedding gift, decides to give her a replica of their house, and then it kind of goes from there. And so she deals with this miniaturist who designs these cute little figures, and you just have to read the book. It is so good. So good. 5 stars. The next book that I read in July is actually kind of a bummer for me. So I try to read at least one Scholastic Book Fair book a month, and I pick these up in my kids' book fairs. And sorry if I'm not staring at my camera because it is still so hard. Like, I want to stare at myself in the monitor part, but technically the camera is there. So I need to like learn to stare there. Patience, people. Anyways, this goes along with the Five Nights at Freddy's series. This is book 2, The Twisted Ones. I read the first one, and I can't remember what it's called. Hold on a second. First one was called The Silver Eyes. This is by Scott Cawthon and Kira Breed Risley? Anyway, Scott Cawthon is the one that has designed Five Nights at Freddy's. And if anyone doesn't know what Five Nights at Freddy's is, then obviously you don't have children who, back in the day, like a couple of years ago, it was huge. You can only get on like your iPhones and your Androids, and it was an app. And now it's just turned into a huge franchise where they've got anything and everything Five Nights at Freddy's, and they just keep pumping out new ones. So the first one I read, I was like, okay, it's a 2-star. It's all right. I was actually quite confused. For being like a children's book or like a their YA novels, it was quite confusing at times. But at the same time, I felt like there should have been more. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe we'll get more in book 2. Boy, was I wrong. It was 1 star. I'm PG for just the violence. That's it. And it's really not even... There's some gory stuff, but it's nothing that like a kid can't handle. But it's just the dialogue, and the characters were so one-dimensional. I felt like things that needed to be explained more were not. They were actually quite vague, and I felt so lost at times, or there'd be a point in the book where you're like, this is getting so ridiculous, like so stupid, to the point where I almost DNF'd this book. It was... like, I feel bad giving such a bad rating and being so negative about a book, but this series, if book 3 is just as bad as this one and the first one, then I seriously don't know how even young kids are making sense of a lot of these things. Like, it's just, I think you get more information through the video games and the apps than you do the actual books. The stories, I think, just suck. Sorry. 1 star. Okay, my next book that I read in July, I'm telling you, July was a really good month for me. A lot of July books. This is a continuation of the Flavia de Luce series by Alan Bradley. I believe this is book 4. 1, 2, 3, yes, book 4. This one is called I Am Half Sick of Shadows. I've been loving the Flavia de Luz series, but not as much as I wanted to. So far they've all been like a good 3.5 kind of for me. Like they're cute, they're whimsical, they're funny, they kind of have this Sherlock Holmes kind of feel of it, and they're about this 11-year-old girl named Flavia de Luz, and she is just she is so smart, she's so sarcastic, she is so witty, she is so sassy. I love her character. Her character cracks me up. And that's what makes the book, is her character. But I feel like a lot of times like the detective part, like the actual crime in each book that she's like trying to solve, that she's like sucked into, it just like, I wanted more. Like I wanted more, because technically these are adult mystery novels. And I don't feel like they read like an adult mystery novel. I feel like they read more like a middle grade almost, even though there are a lot of adults in the book, but the main character is Flavia, and she is an 11-year-old. So you're getting like her 11-year-old personality, but with adult characteristics, if that makes sense. This one I actually loved more than the first three. I'm giving this 4 stars. I'm rating it PG because there is a little bit of violence and death, and you know, I think she says damn a few times. But other than that, it is such a good book. Like, I've really liked this one more than the first 3 so far. And the premises on this one is a film crew pretty much comes to Buckshot, which is where she lives. It's kind of like this old family home, but it's like a castle pretty much. And her father is just trying to make ends meet since her mother had died, and which is nothing new. Like, it says this in every single book, that, you know, you find right away that her mother has passed away when she was a baby. But anyways, a film crew comes, and so her father's like, well, this is how we're gonna make some money, because we're allowing this film crew to use our home and our castle and our land to make this film. And lo and behold, in the film, Flavia finds dead in their home. And it goes from there. And it's just, I love it. I don't want to explain too much because it's so good, and it should stay like a mystery novel, and sometimes you don't want to know more in a mystery than what's given. So, but what's nice is you do not have to read this series like in order. They are kind of standalones, but they all are together, which is really nice. You can kind of read them out of order if you wanted to, and I don't think it's going to hurt anything, but that's just me. 4 stars, loved it. The next book that I read in July is Dead Wake by Erik Larson. This is my 3rd Erik Larson book. He is so amazingly good at taking a true story and almost trying to fill in the blanks for you that maybe the stories that you have heard of particular true stories aren't explained enough. I love the way he writes. Fortunately, I got to listen to this on audiobook through Audible, and it really helps. Like, Erik Larson, I've listened to several audiobooks through Audible through Erik Larson's books, and they're amazing. They're so amazing. So this is about the Lusitania, which I knew a little bit about, like through high school and college. Like, you learn a little bit about it, but oh my gosh, there's so much that I did not know. I almost find the Lusitania and the sinking of this ship more interesting than actually the Titanic. Why don't people talk about this more? I don't understand. Like, it is so fascinating to me about the Lusitania, and it's actually a ship that is crossing I believe like over England territory and stuff, and it's through the time that World War II is going on. Is it World War II or World War I? It's World War II, because there's Germans and they've got like U-boats and stuff like that. So let me just tell you, I wish people knew more about the Lusitania. If you want to know more details about the family backgrounds, about the captain's backgrounds, about what's Germany doing, what is England doing, what France is doing, and how the Lusitania, with just your everyday American English passengers, these are people that are just trying to get from point A to point B. have nothing to do with war. They have nothing to do with, you know, the armies or Germans or American soldiers. No, it is people that are families that are just trying to get from point A to point B, and then the mishaps and the conspiracy theories that go behind the actual sinking of the Lusitania. And it was phenomenal. 5 stars. Of course, it's G-rated. There's really nothing gory or, but I love Eric Larson. This book, phenomenal. 5 stars. Okay, so we're still in the month of July for my wrap-up, but the first few days of Booktubeathon happened to land on the last 2 days of July. So I am including these next 2 books in my July wrap-up, also known as my Booktubeathon wrap-up, which I've actually posted about a month ago. But without further ado, so I read The Magician's Nephew. There are 7 books in the Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis, and if you don't know the Chronicles of Narnia, I believe you have been stuck under a rock or you're a newborn. But the very first book that I read is The Magician's Nephew. Supposedly, this has the chronological order of how the story should have been, even though their printing dates are so wonky. So everyone obviously assumes that The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is the first novel in the Chronicles of Narnia, but you're wrong. The first one technically is The Magician's Nephew, but The Magician's Nephew was not printed until years after The Lion and the Witch and the Wardrobe was printed. Go figure. I'm really glad that I decided to start off with The Magician's Nephew and actually go in the chronological order and not printing date. The Magician's Nephew is before The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and you get a feel of how the world kind of started, how everything kind of comes to be, where the White Witch kind of comes from, the Wicked Witch that's in here, the White Witch. And it's just, I'm so glad that I decided to read the very first one, The Magician's Nephew. I rated it 4 stars, and I rated it PG because it does say damn 1 or 2 times in there. So FYI, C.S. Lewis, you're the bomb for throwing in a few cuss words in there. Gotta love it. So also too, the second book in the series is The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and I finished that the second day of Booktubeathon, which was the very last day of July. I gave it 4 stars, maybe 4.5. 4.5 stars? And through Booktubeathon, you also had to do like read a book with a movie adaptation. So The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe was a perfect fit. I love The Lion and the Witch and the Wardrobe. It brought back so many memories of when I was a kid that I read it. It was phenomenal. I actually think I like it better than the movie. That's just my preference. The only thing that I noticed a really big difference this time around of reading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is when I first read it as a kid, I hated Edmund. Like, I despised Edmund. How could he deceive his family? How could he throw his brother and sisters under the bus? Like, he is just this complete selfish brat. But when I read it the second time as an adult, I had more empathy towards him. And maybe it's because I could see more him as a grown-up to a child's perspective versus a child in a child's perspective. Hope that makes sense. And so I had a lot more like strong feelings for Edmund, and I felt more sorry for him than being mad at him. So that was just kind of a good twist for me that I was not expecting, that I really enjoyed actually. Go figure. The first book that I read in the month of August, and this also goes along with my Booktubeathon, which was read a book with green on the cover. I started this in July, but finished it the first week of August, and this is Flight, which is book 2 in Septimus Heap series. I read book number 1 like a couple months ago, and I read it with my 12-year-old, and we loved it. Like, it is just, it's kind of got that Harry Potter-esque feel, but just different adventures, different monsters, different magic system, all of that, but it still has that like good family, wholesome wizard feel. Flight, I'm giving 5 stars, rated G, just a great middle grade series. I can't wait to keep going on with it. It just flows so smoothly. The magic system is just so amazing. And Septimus and his sister Jenna, their bond and their, oh, it is so, they're so stinking cute, these two. And the adventures and the mishaps that these two have to go through to get from like one point of the story to the next plot because they're constantly trying to save this person or save this spell or do, you know, they're constantly, and it's like finally they get some breathing room and then something else happens. And the way they handle things and the craziness is just, it's actually hysterical sometimes, but it's just so sweet and whimsical and funny. I love the Septimus Heap, their whole family. I love the whole family. I get a lot of like Weasley kind of vibe through the Heap family, and I hate referring it back to like the Harry Potter series, but it has that same warm, fuzzy feeling, and I love it. 5 stars. The next book that I finished in August is The Horse and His Boy, which is book number 3 in the Chronicles of Narnia. I have never read this book. I actually have never read any others past The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, so all of this is quite new. This also was wrapped up in my booktubeathon. Unfortunately, instead of reading 7 books, I was only able to read 4, but that's okay. This goes into August, and The Horse and His Boy, I rated it 4-star. You still have the Narnia land and everything, but you're following completely different people. So the 4 brother and sisters that are in like The Lion, the Witch, and Wardrobe are not in The Horse and His Boy. It follows a different character and his horse, who is a talking horse, who is from Narnia, and they decide to escape the situation that they are in because they are in dire need of just getting back to where they belong, getting away from bad people or people that treat them not so great. And along their adventures, they meet someone else who's trying to escape their problems and meet another talking horse, and it's their adventures on how to get from where they are back to Narnia and live a proper life where they actually belong. And the adventures are great. The character development is amazing for such a short novel. I loved it. There was just so much growth, and the land that was being explained was just, it was beautiful. Like, it was just amazing. Even the way that like the desert and the graveyards were all described, it was just like, I'm there. I want to be there. Love this. I gave it 4 stars, rated G. Awesome. And another August book that I finished is book number 4 in the Chronicles of Narnia series, and that is Prince Caspian. This one so far is probably my least favorite. I gave it a 3. I felt like the characters weren't developed enough. I felt like I wanted to know more about Caspian instead of other characters, and it's about pretty much the 4 siblings from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe do come back in this, but they have been back in England or where they live for like a year. Suddenly they're sucked back into Narnia, and it's like 100 years later. So much has changed. Their castle is gone. And suddenly the reason why they have been sucked back into Narnia is Prince Caspian needs their help. They meet Prince Caspian, and then things go from there, and the adventures and the people that they come across and the creatures and the animals, and Aslan comes back, and it's good, but I felt like there should have been more character development with Prince Caspian. I felt like, I don't know, like I just felt like there should have been more there, and maybe it should have been a longer book. It was quite short. It was only like 100 pages of a novel, but at the same time, it was kind of like, oh, I just wanted a little bit more, but that's okay. I still rated it a 3, rated it a G, or maybe it was PG. Some of these have like the word damn and hell in them, so that's how I'm rating them, but whatever. Okay, I swear, we're getting close to the end, people, and why is my face so shiny? Like, either my highlight is a little too crazy or I'm super oily today. I can't decide. I need like a blotting paper. Ooh, this is working. I think I'm just oily. Yum. Okay, so next book that I read in the month of August is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. I decided to pick this up because several booktubers that I love to follow have highly, highly recommended this book. And I hated this book so bad. It was so boring. I'm so sorry. But also too, granted, I've been in kind of a reading slump for the month of August, and maybe that had a little bit of something to do with it. It took me quite a while to finish it, but also too, I felt it quite boring, and it just like, the end was good. Like the last few chapters were so good that's the reason why instead of giving it a 1 star, I'm bumping it up to a 2 star. Like the last few chapters saved this novel for me. But it's about this girl, Eleanor Oliphant. She's not a girl, she's like a grown-up. She's in her late 20s, and she just lives a very single, monotone lifestyle. And she has been okay with that for years. And then she decides, she gets this major crush on like this musician guy, and she kind of goes stalker style on him, but not in a bad way, but at the same time still kind of in a bad way. And then of course she like befriends someone else, and it's, you know, it was so boring. I'm so sorry. But I love how other people love this novel, and I could see why. I'm just not a big contemporary person, but because this had such high reviews and Reese Witherspoon Book Club, I'm like, all right, I'll give it a try. Everyone's giving it high ratings, and I am sorry, I'm giving it a 2. I rated it PG-13. Just kidding. I rated it R due to sexual topics and a lot of bad language. There was quite a bit of F words in here, so if you are squeamish around that kind of language, just FYI, that is in there. But it's just so boring. I'm so sorry. It's just, if it wasn't for those last couple of chapters to really like vamp it up and be like, oh, okay, book's getting somewhere, and then you're like, oh, I'm done with book. It was just not my cup of tea. Sorry. The last book I read in August is book number 5 in the Chronicles of Narnia. I was hoping to finish this whole damn thing by the end of August, but of course, I didn't. But the 5th book is The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. I listened to it on Audible. It was okay. I rated this a 3.5. It's rated G. It's just, I wanted more from it. It's good. It's a really good novel. It brings back Edmund and Lucy, who are the 2 younger ones of like the 4 that are in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and it was very refreshing to have them come back into a novel. And it's their adventure with Prince Caspian as they are on a voyage on a ship which is called the Dawn Treader, and it just ensues their adventures through Narnia and the things that they have to come across. And it also follows their cousin, who is named Eustace, and he's just a very spoiled brat, like entitled little shiz, you know. So of course it's his character development through a lot of that novel, but I felt like the voyage itself and the adventures were very like, it hopped from one thing to the next. Like it wasn't like a smooth sailing and they'd go into the next adventure or the next mishap. It was like boing, 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 and you're just like bouncing all over the place to where you're like, you know what, this is another novel that I think it should have been a little bit longer. It should have had more depth and a little bit more character development, a little bit more, you know, like talking about the land and the atmosphere and stuff, and it just felt kind of choppy to me. So that's why I'm only rating it 3.5, but still the story was great. It adds to the whole Narnia novels, and I'm loving it, so it wasn't too bad. And that's it. That wraps up my July and August TBR. As you can tell, I only read about 4 books in the month of August, and I read a billion in July, and you could probably tell from my thumbnail that I had quite a big stack. There are 2 more novels in the Chronicles of Narnia series that I'm hoping to get to September and finish up the whole Chronicles of Narnia, which would be a huge, awesome feat for me that I can like check off my bucket list of things that I wanted to do this year for 2018. Thank you so much for watching. If you have read any of these and have like complete opposite feelings of how I felt, let me know. I love having discussions of people with different opinions or different ways of how they see things, and I love to have those open discussions. Please like and subscribe my channel if you liked my wrap up, and of course, I love you guys, and I will see you again next time. Bye.